Welcome to OutFlow. I'm Alan King, and I'm so glad that you've made OutFlow a part of your day. We're just so glad you're here. We have with us again today by way of remote interview. I'm so excited about this. This is really cool, and we're going to be able to have some wonderful opportunities availed to us because of this technology. But today our special guest again is Dr. Bill Coble, who has just published or just finished writing his book, Where Are We in Bible Prophecy, talking about Israel, Russia, China, and the 2030 agenda from the United Nations. You're going to be blessed when that book comes out. You'll want to get a hold of that. But we are so delighted today to have Dr. Bill Coble with us, and we're going to pick up where we left off last time. So grab you something to take notes with, get your Bible, and let's go. This is OutFlow. Welcome to OutFlow. I'm so glad you've joined us today. We are going to pick up where we left off last week as we are talking with Dr. Bill Coble, our special guest. Dr. Coble is a pastor, an adjunct online educator, Bible prophecy teacher, a husband, a father, and I'm just honored to call him a friend. He's the publisher of 3 books, one on the book of Revelation, one on the spirit of Antichrist, and one on spiritual warfare. His 4th book is about to be released soon, Where Are We in Bible Prophecy? And Dr. Coble, it is great to have you again today with us on OutFlow. Last time we we talked about so much good stuff, and I went back and watched, and I thought, I should ask him this, I should ask him that. But let me start here because you kind of opened a can of worms, and I've been wondering this ever since we spoke last time. You mentioned that the Antichrist, this is according to your study of the scripture, the Antichrist was coming through Assyria. And then you open up a whole lot of other avenues as far as talking about that China, help me understand this, that China basically, they are descendants, so to speak, of Assyria. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
But I'm going to lay this out. I'm going to put you on the hot seat. We didn't plan this. I'm going to put you on the hot seat.
Go ahead. I got my Coke Zero, so I'm good.
Okay, there you go. So you referenced something that made me wonder. And from what I took from it, are you inferring, let's say this, is there a possibility that the Antichrist could be Muslim?
Yes.
Okay, that was what I was looking for.
100% yes.
Okay, help me. Well, I agree, but help me. Why do you feel that way?
One, as we discussed last week, Islam is being embraced by the nominal Christian church now. You have many churches that are reading both from the Bible and the Quran now in their services. Presbyterians, for example, some of the United Methodist, Lutheran, a bunch of these nominal churches that are out there. You have the embracement of Islam with something called Chrislam, which is a blending of Islam and Christianity together. And the Pope in Rome right now is one of the main endorsers of that. And so we're seeing that. And, for years we thought the Antichrist was going to be from Rome or Europe, given the Old Testament passages, particularly on the Assyrian, talking about the Antichrist, because when Christ comes, it says he's going to remove the Assyrian from the borders, and very specific there. Yeah. And so I say, and it's in my opinion, that possibly the Pope could be the false prophet instead of the Antichrist.
Yeah.
because he's endorsing this. He's endorsing the Muslim faith right now. And we look at Revelation chapter 20, where it says that the Antichrist beheads people. Muslim law is the only one that does that right now in our world.
Right.
And then you have them wanting to change the laws, wanting everyone to practice Sharia law, and it's just really a a threat to Christianity as a whole.
Did you ever think you'd see the day that Christians were having to face the persecution? And I use that term very loosely because I know that we're not dying yet. But in America, did you ever think we'd see the day that we would have to face some of the things we're facing, the anti-Christian sentiment and the anti-Israel sentiment that we're seeing in our nation, and it's just setting up for all this stuff.
Right. It all evolves from the wokeness doctrine we're seeing in our country right now.
Yeah.
Every bit of it is.
Yeah.
It's not just LGBTQ anymore. It's coming after everything.
Well, that was a precursor. Even I know I might offend people by saying this, but even well, I'm just going to say it. It's my podcast. I'll say it if I want to.
Right.
I really believe that all of this was set in motion by Barack Obama, who set race relations in this country back 100 years. But it was a part of the thing of we've got to accept everybody. We've got to, so it started out with racism and prejudice, which I am totally against. I mean, I'm not at all condoning any kind of prejudice or racism, but it was almost like, okay, now we've got this set up for different races. Now let's move on to the alphabet mafia, the LGBTQRS, whatever number they want to add today. And now, well, if we're accepting everybody, we've got to accept Muslims. And it's what I call woke smoke. It's covering for a much deeper, something so much bigger. But I remember my grandfather 50 years ago. I remember him saying that he didn't feel like, because a lot of people back then were saying that the Pope was going to be the Antichrist. And I remember my grandfather saying, I don't believe the Pope will be the Antichrist. I believe he will be the false prophet. I think it fits better, don't you? I mean, that to me,
yes,
especially with this inclusivity that we're seeing. There is one thing that you talk about in your book that I'm still just going back over and reading and looking at and thinking, wow, they're saying this stuff out loud now. They're not even trying to hide it.
right.
In that UN agenda, that 2030 agenda, you talk a lot. In fact, a good part of your book is about the UN agenda, the 2030 agenda. Can you just kind of highlight some of the things that are included in that we as Christians need to be looking toward, that help us to see that it's not, we don't have long. Jesus is coming. And I meant to bring I forgot my copy of the book. I left it in my office, and I'd highlighted some of this stuff. But you talk about some stuff, not necessarily that you talk about. It's things that they say. This came right from UN resolution.
The first thing I will point out is that the preamble of this agenda says that these 17 developmental goals and 169 targets, which we are announcing today, demonstrate the scale and ambition of this new universal agenda, suggesting one world government. Right there it is. I mean, they seek to realize the human rights of all to achieve gender equality and the empowerment of all, including women and girls. They are integrated and invisible, but in balance the three dimensions of sustainable development: economic, social, and environmental. And you look at the first three first three parts of the 17 items: in poverty in all its forms everywhere, in hunger, achieve food security and improved nutrition, and promote sustainable agriculture, ensure healthy lives, and promote well being for all ages, universal health care. It made me immediately think of Revelation chapter 6, 5, and 6, when it says, and when he had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, come and see, and beheld a black horse, and he that sat upon him had a pair of balances in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts saying, a measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny. See thou not hurt the oil and the wine. And Dr. Voris, in his writings, says, again, there is little disagreement concerning the fact the black horse represents famine. The balances could be the indicative of rationing and refer to the scarcity of even the least necessities of life. I mean, think about it. We're having food supply shortages, all this going on right now in this world in which we live. And we was talking last night at dinner, went and ate at an Italian restaurant here in Greensboro we often go to. And we was talking to the owner, and we said, it's amazing, you almost don't want to bring a new child into this world because of how corrupt it's gotten and everything. And we was just talking about how the world's conditions are almost at that drastic point. And I said, the biggest thing about it is, and he's lost, I've been witnessing to him, the biggest thing, the most important thing is, more than ever, is that we get our lives right with God. Because I firmly believe the trumpet's getting ready to sound.
Yeah.
That's how close we are.
The stage is absolutely being set. I made this statement before about about a lot of the Bible prophecy teachers and a lot of the things that I've heard. The earliest I can remember is I remember them saying Jesus has got to come by 1970. Then somebody else said they had a dream that he was coming in 1977. We've been so wrong for so long because we just grabbed it, every little bit of crumb that we could get. But the thing of it is now, I've never seen a time that so many pieces are put together.
Right.
Because back then, you said, well, Jesus is coming. But I'm like, well, what about this? Because this hasn't happened yet. That hasn't happened yet. It's happened now. I don't, do you know of anything? Let me just ask you, do you know of any prophecy, any end time prophecy that still has to be fulfilled before Jesus returns?
Nope.
Exactly. It's all been done.
The last thing on the timeline, and we know this, is when Israel became a nation again in 1948. Yeah. From that point on, it's been open game ever since that the Lord could come back.
Yeah, absolutely. One of these days, I'd love to have you come back and let's talk about, we thought this was it, but it wasn't, that kind of thing, how we missed on certain prophecies. Of course, we don't have time for that today, but I know you'd be a lot of fun to go over that kind of stuff with, because one thing that I've noticed about you is you have been very open to be, and I don't mean this in a bad way because we need this. I think it's good. You have been skeptical of prophecy teachers who would grab a hold of something and say, this has got to be what this is. And I appreciate that about you. I really do. So that is absolutely a compliment to you for that. But you talk about some things in this book that just show us that the stage is set. But the things like you just read, those sound great, don't they? I mean, we're going to end world hunger. We're going to end inequality. Those sounds like noble things, but the fact of the matter is, if you control a nation's food supply, you control that nation. And that's exactly what we're seeing happening. You talk also in your book about Russia and China. China is very much involved in the control of our resources.
Yeah. They sure are.
And
in fact, even in history, and I note this in my book, Napoleon once said that when China wakes, it will shake the world.
Yeah.
And they have awakened. The dragon has awakened. And it's amazing to me too that China's referred to as the red dragon
Yeah.
because of the description of the enemy in the book of Revelation.
Mm-hmm. And that was before they were known as the dragon, you know.
Right, right.
I mean, the Bible said that a long time before they were labeled as that. So, uh, but
Yeah.
there's so much in there. Russia, China, the UN agenda,
Mm-hmm.
and the nation of Israel. We know um, that all this is pointing toward um, Armageddon, pointing
Right.
toward all the nations coming together. And, you know, we're seeing that accelerated in the day we're living. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so what else can we look for? What do we need to be? And I'm not a sign watcher. You know, I'm, what is it? The old saying, you know, we're not looking for signs. We're listening for a sound. But
Mm-hmm.
the good thing is there are those things that we can look for that let us know uh, the Bible is true, and this thing is about to wrap up.
Probably the biggest thing would be Russia gathering the Middle East nations in the Ezekiel 38 listing together and going in after Israel, which is that one of their ultimate goals. Even one of our missionaries have said that before in his newsletters. Michael Utterback, who does a ministry to Israel, referenced that a few times. And he's also the one that said that Russia's goal is not to win the war. Russia's goal is to get an open channel to the Ezekiel 38 nations.
Wow. Yeah. I saw something the other day on the news where the Red Sea is literally filled with warships right now.
Mm-hmm.
That ought to tell us something, you know.
Yeah.
It's and it's going to affect us. You know, we're going to
Mm-hmm.
see more inflation. We're going to see other things that are going to come as a
And
result of
whether
that.
and whether or not our current president realizes it or not, we will be drug into this war
Yeah, yeah,
completely.
yeah. I saw last night. I think it was uh, that Lloyd Austin said that we were looking at war, and he mentioned years uh, within the next year, a few years. I don't think it's going to take that long. I don't think we're looking at something that's going to happen years from now. Um, and I know that helps win elections, kind of subsides fears a little bit. But we're heading for trouble. Let me kind of put you on the spot a little bit.
Yeah,
Uh,
go ahead.
what you know, I noticed the book talks about Israel, Russia, China, the UN agenda. What about the United States? Where do you see us in this prophetic picture? Because I hear
Well,
people say
I get this question.
You don't read about
I get
America in the Bible.
I get this question all the time, and I want to go to Ezekiel 38 for this one.
Okay.
I've got my Bible right here with me, and the question is, where's the United States in Bible prophecy? And we hear all these questions. You know, is New York Babylon? New York City is America the new Roman Empire because the United Nations is here? All these, I don't want to say conspiracy questions, but truly, the United States is not mentioned in Bible prophecy. There's only one or two that hold Ezekiel 38:13 as even a remote possibility. And that scripture says, Sheba and Dedan and the merchants of Tarshish, with all their young lions thereof, shall say unto thee, art thou come to take a spoil? Hast thou gathered thy company to take a prey, to carry away silver and gold, to carry away cattle and goods, to take a great spoil? You know, we do a lot of trading and a lot of stuff in our country with the Middle East, with Saudi Arabia and Europe and all these other places. But some say, well, that is talking about the United States because we're descendants of Spain, partly. And to that I say, no, it's not. This is talking about how they're going to come during the Ezekiel 38 war and try to take everything Israel has. And they're going to fail because the sovereign God's going to watch over his people. He's going to watch over the Jewish people.
Yeah.
And during the time of Jacob's trouble and 7-year tribulation, some point Israel's going to wake up and realize, hey, this Antichrist is not Jesus. He's not the Messiah we've been looking for.
Yeah.
So I say no, the United States is not mentioned directly in Bible prophecy, but we know as part of the world right now, we're indirectly mentioned because all these things are going to come upon the whole world.
Yeah.
But some say, well, the United States will be wiped out by nuclear bombs or things of that sort. That's a possibility. We've got enough enemies out there with nuclear power to wipe us off the map if they wanted to.
Yeah.
And it's your podcast, but can I interject something as the guest?
Absolutely, brother.
I think we've got so many crazy, mindless, senile people in Washington, D.C. that don't know what they're doing, that if they chose to bomb us, they wouldn't do nothing about it.
Yeah. And they've kind of proven that.
And they proved that with these 3 Americans being killed.
Yeah.
If we had Reagan or if we had Trump or Bush even in office, we would have done bombed Iran, bombed everybody.
Yeah. And we'd never let
God in them.
And we wouldn't have let a spy satellite or a spy balloon get past
through
Washington
the whole United States.
Yeah. But I think it's just part of the plan, brother.
We're too busy trying to chase after aliens and getting the men in black involved.
Yeah. And woke smoke, all that woke smoke. And you're a lot smarter at this stuff than I am. And I told somebody the other day, I said, this guy's so educated. I said, he's got so many degrees. I just want to call him Fahrenheit. But I just really feel like that it's almost like it's all planned. It's just all a part of the plan. And I appreciate that you've been able to go into the Word of God and find out what the Bible really says, because it doesn't matter what our opinions are. What does the Bible say about it?
Right.
And so you've done some incredible research on this, and man, we got so much that we could talk about. I was thinking about yesterday. I was thinking, what are some of the things? I got to get him back in there, and we got to talk about. One of the things is I want to do a whole podcast with you one day on pre, mid, and post trib and pre-wrath and all that stuff. That a lot of that's in your book. You talk about that in the book, but you've also talked about that in your book on Revelation and different ones. But I'd like to dedicate just to have you come back as a guest, and let's just talk about that one day, because you've got some great insight on that. But we got a little bit of time left here. Is there anything in the book, anything about this that you feel like, hey, I want to talk about that a little bit, or have we covered it all? I mean, how do you feel? I just want to make sure. I want to push that book as much as we can, because I'm telling you, folks, you got it. When this book comes, when it hits the market, you got to get this book. There's so much in there about where we're living today. It's exciting times. We're living in prophetic times.
The one thing that I would like to bring up is the two quick things. One is the United Arab Emirates and their role in it. The UAE is really setting things up in a lot of ways. This city, their city called Dubai, and you see the graphics in my book, in the 1990s was just a desert. I mean, a literal desert. And then in 2016, they're a thriving city now, and they've got everything in there. They got this map in their ocean that's called the continent island, and it's shaped like the world and the continents and the countries. But see, here's the thing: Israel's missing
Wow.
from that layout. They've got the Hanging Gardens of Babylon rebuilt in their country. They have built a tower, and they're actually going to, when they finish with it, they're going to call it Babel.
Wow.
And they're a port city. They're surrounded by water, so they got economic trade that can go in and out, trade routes. You were talking about President Obama. His wife, Michelle Obama, when they were developing as a country, was on their board of directors as one of their main attorneys.
Wow.
And that was according to Fox News. That was also according to National Public Radio. And then you have them wanting to bring all major sporting events to Saudi Arabia and Israel. You've got NFL going over there now. You've got WWE going over there now. I had to throw that in there. You know, I like tournaments.
That's right.
And you got all these sporting teams going over there, and they're trying to get UFC to go over there for a show. They're trying to get baseball over there for a game, and all this. In fact, you know, they even tried to buy part of the PGA, and that caused a big uproar.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, and what's crazy to me is you look at particularly the wrestling show, it looks like all the fans are perfectly normal, except for a lot of the women were in their full, you know, Muslim gear out in the crowd.
Yeah.
And they required the women wrestlers to be fully clothed. And I said, my goodness, I wish that was here in America, you know, have some modesty. I flip the channel when they come on. But anyway, that's neither here or there. But you see, it in 25 years, from 1991 to 2016, they went from being a desert to being one of the most thriving cities in the world. Yeah. Dubai has. They've got the Abrahamic house there where they're blending all the religions together, and it's just all there. And so you need to keep your eye on that area. And right when the Ezekiel 38 war breaks out, keep an eye on them. Them two, Saudi Arabia and the United Emirates, are going to work together on that end, while China's going to work on the United Nations end.
Well, don't those the UAE and Saudi Arabia, do they not they try to have or try to present a front of being not pro-Israel, but they're at least tolerant of Israel. Am I right in that?
Right.
And of course we know that's going to be broken.
Yeah. And then as far as the rapture goes, what's blown my mind is all these people in the last several years that have abandoned even a rapture happening.
Oh,
even in our own Pentecostal community of faith.
Yeah.
There are some folks in our denomination that don't believe the rapture is going to happen now. They have become preterists, just like non-Pentecostals, like Steve Furtrick and others that don't teach the rapture anymore.
Yeah. And it's blowing my mind that even people in our movement, you know, we're with the church, we're with the Church of God in Cleveland, Tennessee, people, pastors in our movement, but because we don't have that codified, they can get by with teaching that they don't believe in the rapture, even though we do believe.
And post and mid-trib too.
Yeah. That's why we got to get together and talk about that, because Well, we don't have time to get into a lot of it today, but there's so much there that it's confusing to folk, and it
Mhm.
causes people to be skeptical when we talk about the coming of the Lord. They're saying, "Well, what about this? What about that?" We got to know truth. We got to know and again, truth not based on what I believe, truth on what the Word of God says.
I don't know if you were at the General Assembly in Orlando when we had the business session with Hollis Giles doing the presentation on the rapture.
Yeah,
Man alive. He
yeah,
shot all the post tribbers down
yeah,
like the Titanic.
yeah,
And what's crazy is some of his cohorts there at PTS teach post trib,
yeah,
but they fall under premillennial, so they have the right to do that, you
yeah,
know.
yeah. Well, my
But if
thing
you study
is,
church history, if you study our history, though, that was put in there to define pre-trib,
yeah,
but we call it premillennial.
yeah, yeah. And again, I got to have you back for that one. We got to talk about. In fact, I got a couple of friends of mine. Maybe we just need to do a get about three or four of us in here together and talk about that, because I got some friends of mine that would love to enter that discussion with us, and got some guys I'd love for you to meet, because we're all light thinkers. We I think you'd enjoy talking to them. But Dr. Coble, this has been great. I really appreciate you taking the time to join us on Outflow, and we want you to come back. We want to do this
Yes.
again. Um, but because I just love to share to glean from your knowledge. So the book is Where Are We in Bible Prophecy?
Mm-hmm.
Is Israel, Russia, China, and the 2030 Agenda,
Mm-hmm.
which is actually the UN. I mean, the UN
Mm-hmm.
there's a resolution about this, and it'll be available hopefully very soon, and we'll let
Mm-hmm.
everybody know when it's available. And but I can't wait for everybody to get a hold of that. And I know it's going to be eye-opening to a lot of folks, because it is very much like we're reading the newspaper. It's like we're reading
Mm-hmm.
these events from this is what's happening right now.
Right.
And you've written about it in the book, and I pray that it goes well. I hope it's going to help a lot
Mm-hmm.
of folks. So,
Yeah.
um, but thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Our time is up. We're going to have to go. Regrettably, we could go on for a long time talking about it and go into so much more of this. But well, we're going to have you back if that's okay with you. Uh,
Yes.
we'll have you back. And but in the meantime, thank you so much for being with us today, and thank you for joining us today on Outflow. And we're going to let you know when that book comes out, and you'll be able to order it. It'll be on Amazon and a lot of Barnes
Mm-hmm.
and Nobles, a lot of different outlets like that. Or you can just contact Dr. Bill Coble and get an autographed copy. I'm sure he'll
Right.
for extra $50 he'll autograph it. There you go. So well, Dr. Coble, God bless you, brother. It's good to
God
talk.
bless you.
Good to talk to you, and I'm looking for great things from your ministry and
Yes. Thank
from
you.
this book. So God bless you. Thanks so much for joining us. We're so glad that you made Outflow a part of your day, and we're just believing that you received something special today, and God has touched you through the teaching of Dr. Bill Coble. We are going to let you know when that book, his brand new book, Where Are We in Bible Prophecy? We're going to let you know when that comes out so you can get a copy. Just so much there that you're going to want to get a hold of that, and you're going to want to read it. We again thank you so much for joining us for Outflow. If you've been blessed today, let us know. If you have questions or topics, comments, things that you'd like for us to talk about, we'd be glad to hear from you. Our email address is outflow@outflow.online. Again, that's outflow@outflow.online. I'm Alan King, coming to you from the studios of River of Life Church in Valdez, North Carolina. Hope you'll join us next time for Outflow. Now, get out there and be blessed. And while you're at it, be a blessing.